I want to educate you on you. I want to empower you in times of adversity, and I want to equip you to heal yourself because you can. Welcome to season 1 of my podcast, Unshrinkable. Hi, I'm Emily Katz. My guest and I are here to help you find what works for you beyond traditional therapy and mainstream meds. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to have the amazing Tarla here today. Hi, Tarla.
Hi.
Okay. Tarla is an inner light guide, chakra specialist, and laughter yoga leader on a mission to help women unlock their authenticity, embrace their vibrancy, and live life to the fullest. Participants who've experienced Tarla's laughter yoga sessions cannot stop singing her praises. They talk about how Tarla has this incredible knack for tapping into their inner laughter, a powerful tool for releasing stress and tension. Her sessions are transformative experiences that leave a lasting impact, helping individuals discover more about themselves and the incredible power of laughter. So I cannot wait to have Tarla teach us all about this beautiful modality, revealing the amazing health benefits and life-changing potential of laughter. This is very specialized. I'm really, really excited. Let's dig in. Tarla, hi.
Hey.
Thank
you for
you
having
for
me.
being here. Thank you. Let's just dive in. Can you start, please, with introducing yourself? Tell us a bit about who you are and how you got specifically to be doing this very niche, specialized, beautiful work.
Okay. Yes, so thank you for hosting me. I'm both excited and a little bit nervous. So it's a good reminder to laugh because actually laughter also helps us move through these nervous feelings. So yeah, about 14, 15 years ago, I would say my spirituality kind of took a turn when I understood the endless world of alternative treatments, alternative therapies. I was always very drawn to transformative work and modalities that would allow me to find out more about who I am. And then when I discovered laughter, I was actually in India when I first came across laughter yoga, and it kind of just expanded my whole world because laughter is something that I thought I was naturally doing. And then and all of us. And then when I started to understand that as adults, most of our laughter is actually programmed laughter, and that we actually lose the natural laughter that we have as children, it actually was very upsetting and also very liberating because it gave me an opportunity to find out more about what is the type of laughter that I want to produce for my body.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I can say, I'm going to talk a little bit about the benefits of laughter in our life on the physical level and on the emotional level and on the mental level and also on the spiritual level. I will choose just one topic like regret. So something that I see a lot in my clients is that we walk around with a lot of regret in our lives. And this can become very heavy on our energy system when we walk around with why I didn't do this, why I didn't do that, why I didn't say this, why I didn't say that.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started to actually look to my past, literally look over my shoulder and laugh at the past, I found that I could release this regret. And I discovered this on a bus in India when I left a town, let's say prematurely. I needed to move on. I felt I had already been there long enough, and my mind told me to move on, but I wasn't really ready emotionally. And while I was on the bus leaving the town, I started to feel this regret come over me. And I was just newly exposed to laughter. So I decided, instead of looking back at the town behind me and crying or feeling angry at myself for leaving before I was ready, I decided to laugh at it. So I just did that on the bus in India. I turned around, I looked out the window, and I laughed at the past. At the past, and I could see the change in my body. I could feel the change in my system. And that was like a stepping stone into my understanding of the power of laughter.
Okay, so hold on. Let me just to clarify. You wanted to cry, But you made a conscious, intentional decision to say, I'm not going to cry, I'm going to laugh instead.
Yeah.
Okay. It's very, you need to, like, so I think that it would also require, like, I think many people don't realize that they have a choice like this,
Yeah.
and being able to take like make that choice, like say, I'm not going to do this, I'm going to do this instead. So it's also kind of, you need to have a certain level of awareness and
Right.
of like self-empowerment to do that.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
we have
interesting.
to be willing to do it differently. We have to be
Yes.
willing to try it differently.
Yeah.
You know, until then in my life, I was used to feeling bad about what was difficult in the past. But then I decided to step into something different and say, what would happen if I sort of laugh at it? And then when I saw and felt and experienced it so differently, I was like, I'm never going back to the heavy way. I will stay committed to a more light approach to what
Okay.
is difficult.
I'm loving this. I'm asking the questions that I think people will ask, but I'm also genuinely curious, right? So like, what about emotion? Like, is there no danger of emotionally bypassing? Because we want to feel our feelings, right?
Right. Yes, that's for sure. Yes, of course. So this is really important. And actually, when I work with people with laughter, I'm very clear of the difference of emotional bypassing, spiritual bypassing, and finding another way.
Mm-hmm.
So when I decided to laugh at that in that moment, I wasn't laughing at myself and I wasn't laughing at my pain. I was just choosing to use my pain to process my pain through laughter.
Hmm.
So it's not about pretending like the pain doesn't exist or to ignore the pain or to bypass the pain,
Mm-hmm.
but to give myself another tool of dealing with the pain. And this also requires some awareness,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because we don't want to just ignore what is difficult and just start laughing at it.
Yeah.
It's not that. It's there's a nice technique where I say that our hand is like a mirror and we look at ourselves and we have a good laugh. To remind ourselves to be light with ourselves, not to beat ourselves up over things, not to go into a state of um
Hmm. Okay.
uh,
Fascinating. Keep going. 'Cause
yeah. So I can say a few things about the difference of like judgment and joy. And I give a statistic. So when we're children, we laugh on average between 200 to 300 times a day. By the time we are adults, we laugh on average between 15 to 20 times a day. That means that over the course of our lives, we lose hundreds of laughs.
wow.
Now, children don't laugh because of humor. They are not laughing because they have a good sense of humor. They're laughing because it's their nature to be joyful.
Hmm.
They're laughing because their mind is not busy with all sorts of roadblocks that get in the way of their joy. As adults, why do we stop laughing? Because of these mental roadblocks, because of judgment, criticism, the serious syndrome, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And when we do laugh as adults, it's based on humor. It's based on jokes. We laugh at sarcasm. We laugh at memes. We laugh at, funny reels and so on and so forth. So what happens is our laughing becomes conditioned,
Mm-hmm.
programmed.
Yeah.
I only laugh when there's a funny enough meme.
Yeah.
And children don't have that. Why do these roadblocks, how are they created? They're created by self, by family, by society, by education. Yeah, it says be serious. It's time to be focused. And those barriers literally shut off our infinite ability to laugh like we did when we were children. So the whole nature of laughter is totally misunderstood. And
I
even
can
when
imagine we also, sorry to cut you off, but we also have all of the whatever experiences in the past that we're like ruminating about and whatever worries in the future that we're concerning ourselves about, right? So like we have all these extra layers and responsibilities of that like come with, like, I think the worries come with the responsibilities because you're a grown up now, you have to be responsible, so you have to be worried and thinking about all of these other things. Yeah, sorry, continue.
and if we're not doing that as adults, we're judged for not being mature enough, not being focused enough, not being successful.
Yep.
You know, sometimes when adults are having fun or are really lighthearted, they're judged.
So literally, sorry, but literally a lack of joy is positively reinforced into us.
Absolutely.
That's crazy.
Absolutely. Our natural ability to be joyful is taken away from us. And when we talk about the difference of being childish and being childlike, this is a huge misunderstanding. I many times hear people in my workshops, they say, you know, it feels weird to be childish or something. You know, I say, well, we don't want to be childish. Childish would be throwing a tantrum as an adult, would be throwing things when we don't get what we want, throwing food on the floor when we don't like it. Yeah, so on and so forth. We don't want to be childish. That belongs to childhood. But to be childlike is a quality that we can invite into our adulthood that will make all the difference in the world. When we feel the freedom to be more playful, to be more light, and not to be constantly stuffed back into, like, again, this like serious syndrome or this like success mode.
I have to say, one of the most common things that I find that's conditioned out of us, like with my clients, is we really don't play. We don't allow self-expression, and play is one of
Exactly.
the missing conditions that we need to thrive and to grow and for health and happiness. There's good sleep, there's good nutrition, there's movement, there's emotional support, and there's fun, like play, creativity.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things that we really lose as we grow up. Yeah.
Exactly.
And
So
laughter is a
what
big
you
piece of
all
that.
just mentioned here is like being childlike,
Yeah.
you know? And even, you know, when you talk about like doing an art project. So many times when adults sit down to do an art project or don't sit down to do an art project, it's all sorts of beliefs about what art should look like. You know, but if we were to approach it from a more childlike behavior that doesn't care what the outcome of the art is, we would be able to create so much more. If we were more childlike in our expression, we don't care if the colors match, we don't care if the dimensions make sense, right? Like a child. But the mind is so busy trying to create it to be mature that we totally forget about this childlike quality. And it's way more than just fun. There's like real scientific proof about laughter's effect on us, again, in the physical realm, mental realm, emotional realm, and spiritual realm. And there's just endless understanding, and it comes out more and more and more of how much impact laughter has on our organs, on our mental state, on our emotional well-being. And when we look at the history of laughter, there was a time that laughter was shameful. Like if you look at old movies, you see when the women laugh, they cover their face. They can see it if we look at it. And it's hard to say that it's new because it's over a number of decades, but we are actually, as a society and as women, taking back our right to laugh. We no longer, and I can still see it in people in workshops, that there's still this covering up. Someone starts really laughing and they go like this, or they put their head down, or we hear them say things like, I can't, I can't, I can't, because it became embarrassing to laugh. It became embarrassing for an adult to have fun.
It reminds me,
It
but I don't know if it's connected, but it reminds me of like when the first kind of photography, like pictures were taken that people wouldn't smile. I don't know if it's connected, but they were just like very serious. It's like you're getting your portrait done, you have to be serious. Like they
exactly.
wouldn't smile.
And that is exactly it.
Mm.
It's the same. And that energy, even though in 2024 we are in a different reality than we were in 1924, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
the conditioning is still there inside of us.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Mm.
And that's one reason that we have to consciously choose to step into joy and laughter. So, like going back a little bit to the example I gave about instead of looking back at the town in India that I left and feeling heavy and sad and regretful, and instead being in gratitude and trusting and being light about it. Yeah. It's like we don't want to keep being attached to pain. Does that make sense? Like that it's so we are also conditioned to stay attached to our pain because that's sort of what being an adult means, is struggling or having difficulty.
Well, that's what I
That's
was thinking. It's like, how can you choose to laugh when you don't want to laugh, you want to cry or whatever, right? So like, how can you make that switch? And it sounds like you just said it. It was like in a choice of looking back and looking at what you're grateful for and the good that came with it and detaching from the pain in that situation. How does it actually work then? What does a laughter yoga session look like? I know that it's not the same as experiencing it, of course, right?
yeah.
But just to kind of explain what it's like.
Well, something that's important is the first step is to recognize that there's pain,
Okay. I like that. Mm-hmm.
right? The first step is not to just start laughing. Like the first step is to say, I feel heavy here. I feel sadness here. And when we can recognize where that is in our body, we can recognize where that is in our heart. We can take a moment to see where is it's sitting on me. Like by recognizing it, then we can choose to give it attention, right? So the sort of cliche, the feeling is the healing. So if we say, like, I'll show an example. Okay. So I'm someone, I carry a lot of, like many people carry a lot of stress in my shoulders
Mm-hmm.
and in my neck. So one exercise from laughter yoga is the laughter button. So we take our like laughter button finger and we recognize where there's pain in our body, where there's physical pain in our body. We turn it on. And when we turn it on, we let the laughter come out from that place.
Okay.
So like this. I have stress in my neck. Oh, I have this pain in my neck and I need to go to a massage and it never goes away and it's day after day. This is one way. This is actually
Typical way.
this is actually what we're taught to do. This is what we saw our parents doing. So we think that the best thing to do is be this way, right? But what would happen if instead we said, I'm going to go ahead and go straight into the pain. And instead of making it heavy, I'm just going to see what happens when laughter comes out. So, yeah. And then what might happen is that sadness comes out and tears come out. So we let that come out, but we don't stop laughing. Or maybe what comes out is more pain and not collapsing in that pain, but to go on laughing in it.
Interesting.
It is a shift, you know,
100%. Yeah.
it's a transformational shift. It really is. And it may be when I talk about it, maybe I could say, oh, someone would say from the outside, well, she makes it sound so easy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've been doing it for a while. So yeah, I can't say it's easy. Sometimes it's not easy for me. It's not about it being easy or not easy. It's crucial for us to shift our energy, for us to shift our pain into joy, from us to shift our aches into release, for us to shift our stress into freedom. It's crucial for this transformation.
You know what? What's coming up. I think that it just goes to show how conditioned we are, because I can imagine that people would be responding to this or feeling to the like in response to the idea of this, similarly to what I am as someone who hasn't practiced this, as like it feels uncomfortable, like it feels uncomfortable to, but why? And so I believe in curiosity. Why is it then uncomfortable? Why does it feel uncomfortable to laugh through the pain? Or like, why does that feel wrong? Right. And that's the conditioning, right? And it really, I mean, I'm thinking now to a point where I laughed and cried many times. I've laughed and cried, right? But I think that also crying through the pain does help make it lighter and does help release it. And I think if tears are, like for me, I cry to regulate, like I very much crying for me is the way I regulate. And so why can't laughter be? Laughter, it makes sense that it could also be a way to regulate, right?
Yeah.
So I just find it fascinating.
And actually what you bring here is really important, because this comes up a lot in my workshops.
Mm-hmm. I can imagine
And I have
uncomfortable or some, awkward.
Totally. The discomfort, the awkwardness, what they've worked so hard to build, to be a professional, to be successful, to be serious. Yeah. For the world to see them as a credible adult. Mm-hmm. And then you let them laugh uncontrollably. And it's like challenges all that they've worked so hard to become. So it is uncomfortable. When I look at energy and joy, they work together. Crying and laughter work together. They're not separate. This is one of our conditioning also that says they are separate. Mm-hmm. When we allow ourselves to feel joy, we also allow ourselves to feel sadness. Mm-hmm. When we allow ourselves to feel pain, we can also allow ourselves to feel relief. If we don't want to feel anything, it's the duality. If we don't want to feel anything, we just go through life like a robot. So we don't want to. So actually, when we invite the laughter, often the sadness comes. And often when we invite sadness, the laughter comes. Like we all know that feeling where we're laughing and then all of a sudden the tears start to fall, or we're crying and then we kind of forget why we're crying and we start laughing. So I have a great exercise I can also show you. I made this up in my work with people. Most of the exercises I do I have the base of my training, but I really just over the years kept adding exercises based on real life experiences. And I normally do it standing. I'll do it here. It's called crying down, laughing up. And it looks a little bit like this. They're not separate. Mm-hmm. So we don't want to disregard either one. And just like you said, tears help us regulate and laughter helps us regulate. Sometimes tears are exactly what is necessary. And sometimes laughter is exactly what is necessary. They're not interchangeable. But if we don't allow any laughter in, then we actually don't allow lots of emotions in.
That's so true. I love this. I really do feel as though, like, if you want to succeed, you have to be open to failing. You want to be the light, see the light, have the light, be in all of that joy, then you got to feel the shit as well. Like the darker it is, the brighter it is when you leave. But like you need the dark for the light. You need the sadness for the joy. And it completely makes up this duality piece is something that's been a bit of a theme for me in recent months. And I really do see the sense in it. I can also, I'm just thinking as laughter as a way of regulating, just to kind of carry on with that thread. As someone who had PTSD, I remember that in my stress response, a lot of the time was fawning, and fawning can sometimes just be giggling, like you're so uncomfortable, you're in stress, you're feeling tense. So what do? You laugh. you laugh it off, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to create a conflict. I don't want to create a confrontation. I've been conditioned not to, so I'm going to use laughter instead of crying right now because I can't cry. I'm going to laugh or whatever. Like it is a mechanism that we use, and we've been conditioned in whichever way to use it. But it sounds like you found a way to use it as a healing modality, as a tool that we can use and go to, and maybe even more so to access some of the feelings that we haven't been allowing ourselves to feel.
Yeah, exactly.
So
there's a great sentence that I use when I'm leading laughter meditations, where I say, laugh at nothing and laugh at everything. And there was something that you just said that reminded me of that, because it's like the laughter is a sort of tool, and we can use it to laugh at nothing and laugh at everything. And it's not to laugh at our trauma from the past. It's not the idea, or to laugh at the wounded side of ourselves. No, but to use laughter as a coping mechanism for us to move through all that is and all that isn't.
Yeah.
To laugh at all that we think and all that we don't think. To laugh at all that we experience and don't experience. And that also ties into sort of living a life of acceptance. If we look at, the most joyful way to live our lives is through living a life of acceptance. So when we also are willing to accept that we are living in a post-traumatic stress disorder, that we have that in our system, and not ignoring it, but recognizing that it's there, and then allowing laughter to be part of our coping mechanism, it actually increases our forgiveness. It increases our compassion. It increases our self-love. So we're not using it to ignore, but we're using it to actually forgive ourselves, find compassion for ourselves, love ourselves.
It's funny. There's something's coming up for me. I feel like I'm feeling compelled to share it. I don't know if it's exactly in this. I think it's like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you're saying, let's find the way to laugh about it, or laugh about it, and then everything else will kind of either come through or reconfigure so that we kind of have a lighter way of looking at it. Whereas something that it happened to me recently, I wrote about it on my Facebook. I wrote that I was really triggered by something, that I was getting, my blood was boiling. I was getting all that anger and all that, stuff. And then I used some of my tools, like my trigger work tools, the awareness that I've developed over time of like, shift your perspective. Could there be another way of interpreting this situation that wouldn't have you feeling this way? It wouldn't be meaning this about you. Let's not take it personally. Let's think of like another angle that we could look at this. And when I did that and was able to do that and literally pivot, like I mentally pivoted, and then I was just like, holy shit, what I thought was obvious was actually not true, because I can look at it from this angle, and then it's a completely different experience of whatever it is that's just happening. And especially when it involves someone else, it's like we could be completely misinterpreting their action. We don't know what's going on for them and what their actual intentions are, or what their thought, whatever, and so I use this a lot with my trigger work, and then I found myself laughing about a situation that otherwise in the past would have had me like fighting, and really upset and crying about it. And so it's like I got to the laughter at the end. Like I managed to get there, but it sounds like you like shortcut. Let's just start with laughter and it'll bring everything else together. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, not always, but it is one way. It is one way. There are lots of also practices where first you cry and then you let the laughter come. There are like other modalities that say, or first express all your anger and then let your laughter come out, because those are energies that sit on our joy.
Mm-hmm.
Those are energies that get in the way of our laughter. It's true. So sometimes we do need to do that. It's not so like black and white, right? That it's just like, okay, go straight to laughter. But that we don't want to skip or discredit the laughter.
Mm-hmm.
Laughter is also part of it. And if we can pivot ourselves, like from going into like, you know, a dark, difficult hallway, tunnel, and we just automatically say, like, I'm not, laughter has no place here, you know, we'll just get stuck in the dark.
And so your laughter as a tool, as a modality, like the more you practice, the easier it is then to do those pivots.
Yeah, definitely. I would say. And that's why showing up for laughter in our lives is so important, consciously making time for laughter. And when we talk about this laughter, it's really important to understand, like what I was saying at the beginning, that it's like the child's laughter. It's the laughter that is natural. Now, as adults, we cannot just necessarily go straight to go to that, you know, because we're not children anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But if we show up, let's say for laughter yoga once a week, we actually, like any exercise, like Dr. Kataria, who created laughter yoga, he says, like any exercise, if you never do it, you'll be out of shape.
Yeah.
It's no different. Laughter is the same. If you use it and you have it as a as a practice in your life, then you have it as a practice to take from, to rely on, to fall back on.
I love it. Makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So if we even see it as that, laughter as an exercise,
Yeah.
everything changes.
And what are the kinds of symptoms or problems that people come to you with the laughter yoga?
When I ask people, you know, what keeps you from your laughter? Because sometimes in a workshop, I'll share this statistic that I shared with you, that we lose these hundreds of laughs in our life. And why have you lost your laugh? And I'll ask people, and people say, you know, the big answer is seriousness, success, laundry, dishes,
Mm-hmm.
financial stress, or post-traumatic stress. I mean, these things all come up, obviously, depending on what
Yeah.
people are willing to share. But these are all things that we hear, and also judgment. A lot of people talk about being judged in their laughter, which is shocking to me. Like that
Mm-hmm.
was so. I remember when I first started learning about laughter yoga, and they talk a lot about judgment, and it's like, what are they talking about? What are we to? Who are we to judge laughter? And then when I started to research and understand it more and work with people, I understood how much of us are afraid to be judged, even by the way we sound when we laugh or the way we look when we laugh.
Mm-hmm. I even remember as a child, like to cover my face when I laughed because I
Yeah.
was scared of being judged of how I would look when I'm laughing. Yeah, I remember that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, this is we so sadly, as we grow into our mid-childhood, you know, if we consider like the early teens as still being part of our childhood, teens are not that willing to laugh unless it's at someone else's expense.
Yeah. No, I'm
You
finding
know,
I'm thinking like you'd probably go to a laughter yoga session thinking, oh, I need to bring some joy into my life. This is a nice thing to try or whatever. But then you realize that it's actually going to be helping you recondition some very, very serious things,
people,
and like
yeah,
self-judgment and self-limiting beliefs and a whole lot of heaviness.
yeah, and lots of voices
Yeah.
that tell us that it's not okay. You know, I can share many years ago, when I was just starting out as a laughter yoga leader, I was simultaneously working in a preschool in Tel Aviv. And I was working with the 2 and 3 year olds. And sometimes I would lead like laughter circles for them, or we would start the morning circle with each one sharing a laugh, and you know, and they're so easy about it. We would have these circles and it'd be very fun. And then I don't know, 20 minutes later, it'd be time to have breakfast, and all the kids would sit down to get their food. And I once heard one of the teachers say to the kid, they couldn't stop laughing, you know, because once we start laughing, it's very hard to stop, which is, we didn't even come to the point of it being so contagious and how the brain automatically creates more laughter when we laugh. And one of the teachers said to one of the kids, can you please act your age? And I was like, this is their age. You know, this is exactly what they're supposed to be doing at their age.
Wow.
And, and you can just see how the child shrunk in that moment. On the one hand, they're being encouraged to laugh, but only when they're supposed to laugh, not just also because their laughing is natural. So this is also something why then as we get older into our mid-childhood and into our adulthood, that we want to act our age. And
Hmm.
it's no longer within our age to just laugh.
No, I think I'm also thinking like kids, they like squeal with joy, right? Like the
Yes,
squeal, like it's a shriek of laughter and squealing of, like it's all these other sounds that kids just, they have the permission to
exactly.
express, and as adults we're more and more limited and confined, and I can imagine that this must be super liberating, like
Yeah,
freeing with
yeah.
regards to like self-expression in that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, and this is exactly where we're like breaking through the what we call the serious syndrome. So I mentioned it before,
Mm-hmm.
and this is all these things that I mentioned of these roadblocks or gets in the way of our laughter is this serious syndrome. So like any syndrome that we walk around with, most adults suffer from the serious syndrome, and that is why we can't even move past it because it's so ingrained in us, because the syndrome is so beyond our willingness to look. Like we're not even willing to look at that. We are often we're just encouraged to keep up that facade of a serious syndrome.
Yeah. No, I
And
mean,
I even saw there with like little kids that, that already there's already this like, now it's time to be serious. We're having food. It's time to be serious. We don't laugh when we eat. Why not? We're sitting with our friends at a table. Laughter is healthy. There's nothing wrong with having a laughter at the table with friends, right? So
no, I even have been very aware and conscious in my parenting that like when my kids are messing about, having a laugh, but I say like not now. You can do it, and then I'll say, okay, now you want to be loud, scream, like go have fun, la, 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 la. Okay, cool. And I like we'll play and we'll have we'll squeal and whatever. But then like before bedtime or something, now we got to calm down a little bit. And so and I actually go against that a lot of the time, and I make them like tickle and make them laugh whatever before bed because I want them to be in a happy place before they go to
yeah,
sleep.
yeah, sure.
Be a bit light about it, but it's interesting with the children and the conditioning, thinking in schools as well, children are like having fun, laughing, la la la, and then in the classroom you have to be serious, you know
The only way you can learn is if you don't laugh.
yeah.
The only way that you'll do good on your test is if you're serious.
That being said, I had an amazing history teacher one year, and he would make us laugh all the time. And it was to hold our attention because it was history class. But I'll never forget that he used humor and laughter. Like he would run around the classroom and climb up on the windowsills and play with the curtains and just be really childlike and playful
Yeah,
to make us laugh to kind of hold our attention.
yeah.
He was really fun.
Yeah, sure. And this makes such a huge difference. This makes,
I remember him.
yeah, exactly. Remember him. And even as you were sharing it now, I remembered a high school teacher that I had, also history. And when someone would fall asleep in the class, he would handle it with so much playfulness. He'd go to their yelling at them or kicking them out of the class. He would go to them and he'd, sit next to them until they'd wake up, and he would not to make fun of them, but just to make it light,
Yeah.
it sometimes history is boring, and I don't think he was trying to pretend like it wasn't. He was like, hey, you're bored. I can understand. I get bored sometimes, so let me be playful with you. And then it just changes everything. And I remember that. And I remember being one of those kids being woken up by him, and instead of waking up like ashamed, with the drool coming out of my mouth, you know I came out laughing.
Yeah. No,
And
it
it's
completely
just a
changes
totally
it.
different approach. So, of course, you know, as a parent, because you talk about being a parent with children, you still want to have boundaries. It's still okay for there to be like quiet time. It's all, there's
I think if anything,
There,
that would probably be the way, the boundaries. You can have the quiet time,
yeah,
then you have the playtime, so that in adulthood it doesn't get shut down completely. You just make time for it.
right.
You
That
know?
it has that it also has a place. Yeah, that
Yeah.
it has and that it's safe,
Yes.
right? This is also something that we want laughter to be safe for people.
Also important. Like it is important. Like it, and I really understand the importance of it, but I love hearing you use it, like, the use of it as a modality, because I haven't, heard about it before. So I was really excited to have you come and teach us about it.
Yeah.
And what was I going to ask? How about incorporating it into your daily life? Like, how is that something that you do, or that you would advise others to do beyond like a laughter yoga session? Of course, that'd be like a nice introduction into it, right? But how else would you incorporate more laughter?
Well, recognizing its impact on us makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Like anything, if we go for a walk every day and then we see how it improves our physical health, so then we want to walk every day.
Yeah.
It's the same. So if we start the day, there's a beautiful teaching that says every day when you wake up, before you do anything, before you open your eyes, before these days, before you look at your phone, before anything, just have a laugh. Start your day with laughter. And just by doing this, it's like starting out on a
Setting the
lighter
tone for the
platform.
day.
It creates a tone for the day. And then that sort of gives us a bank of joy. So when difficulty arises, we don't automatically go into like the deep spiral of depression. So when we also recognize laughter's impact on our serotonin levels, um on our stress levels, on our physical pain levels, when we start to see its benefits, it's like we can't imagine not doing it. We can't imagine not having it as part of our life. And because there are so few times throughout the day for adults to laugh, other than sarcasm, memes, laughing at others, we actually need to consciously take time for it. And it doesn't have to be even more than a minute. It can be 1 minute, 2 minutes. Of course, 20 minutes would be great. 30 minutes, awesome. An hour, you have just given yourself an amazing gift.
But it's just
But
to start
it's
laughing, or is there a way
just
to get into it?
well, there's all sorts of exercises that we can do. So I can show you another one that's really great. Like we say that laughter is sort of like the natural pill for depression. Like it's the natural antidepressant. And sometimes people need it. And I don't at all judge people who take or don't take. I know many medicines that helped many people that I love. So I'm not saying it's a bad thing. In addition, what would happen if we took a laughter pill? So there's an exercise that we can do every morning. My clients love this exercise and they tell me they do it at home. You imagine that you're holding a huge jar of laughter pills in front of you. First, you shake the jar like this. You go, taka, taka, taka.
Taka, taka, taka.
Then you have to open the jar with a sound like this. Eh, eh, eh.
Eh.
Then the jar is open. You pour it into your mouth. I'll show you, and then you'll do it after me. You pour it into your mouth. Ah, exactly. So you actually imagine that you're taking a laughter pill, and you do that 3 times in a row. And it
Okay.
takes literally 10 seconds, and it can shift your whole day. So altogether, it goes like this.
Why the curiosity? Why the additional noise sound effects?
Well, this is what we do to help build it up, to open up the energy, to open up the throat chakra, to get the body moving. Yeah. It's like when you do a yoga session, before you start doing sun salutations, usually do some stretching before you. So it's like opening up the body,
Get into
opening
it.
up the system, and it's to be playful. And anyone who takes a pill for depression, they have these steps. They have to take their jar. Sometimes they shake it to see if they have enough to get through the month. You have to open it. You take the pills. You need to have your. So it's like reframing reframing our experience of taking something to make us feel better. What would happen if we took a laughter pill? Maybe we also need other pills, and that's okay. We can add laughter pill. It doesn't cost us anything. It's not going to hurt us. It will only
And
benefit
beyond
us.
that, I think it's actually a really good exercise to get over self-judgment
Yes,
and the
and that too.
self-consciousness. Because I'm just saying, like, even me doing that now, that was uncomfortable. It feels awkward. I'm feeling silly, you know? And what's wrong with that? Do you know what I'm saying? And so I'm like,
Yeah,
okay, that's just brought to my awareness that this would actually be a really good practice for me to get outside of my comfort zone, right?
exactly.
So I
Exactly.
think it has that an added benefit there as well, right? Like it's, I like
Yeah.
it.
And then when the laughter comes more naturally when you're around others or when you're in a social environment or you're even walking down the street by yourself and something joyful comes out of you, not just because there's a funny advertisement, but because something joyful comes out of you, it will be more easy for you to let it rise out of your system, to let it be expressed.
Yeah.
You
You won't
know,
be as limited and as held back and as tight and as, yeah, it makes sense. I like it.
exactly.
And I
Exactly.
think in
Exactly.
general, the more you practice it, the more you become a joyous person, the more you
Right.
become, you know, exuding this energy of like, I'm just going to be more joyful and I am more joyful. And, you know, and I think that then that's like you know, energetics, law of attraction, manifesting, like it's going to come back to you more. Like people are going to respond more joyfully to you if you're a more joyful person. Makes sense.
To yourself also,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
right? You know, you become a more supportive, joyful, loving person to yourself when you also let yourself be those things, be more joyful, be more light. Almost at the end of every session that I do, whether it's with individuals, online, in groups, when I ask people how they feel afterward, the most common answer is lighter.
Mm.
And
Makes sense.
yeah, and it doesn't mean that we don't have heaviness. We are walking around with heaviness.
Mm-hmm.
We have heaviness and we have a right to have heaviness. There are heavy things going on.
It's valid.
It's
Yeah.
totally valid to feel
Uh-huh.
that heaviness.
But it'd be nice to
When
be
we
able to put it
bring
down for a minute.
exactly. And
Mhm.
when we laugh, it allows us to do that a little bit. And when we talk about laughter in its essence, it's very cliche, but it's the universal language. We don't have to speak the same language to connect through laughter. Even
Mhm.
with ourselves, we don't have to find the words. When we do a laughter meditation with ourselves, when we're having difficulty, we don't have to find the words. We don't have to make sense of things. We don't have to find the answers or the solutions. The laughter itself is wordless.
No, and it is so contagious as well. Like it really, you know, like if one person laughs, someone else is laughing. Like you don't need to know like what's happening. It really is powerful.
Yeah. And science has really studied how the brain responds to laughter. It's not just that laughter is contagious as a sort of nice thing to say. It's like the brain responds, and when the brain hears laughter, it laughs.
Amazing.
Our own laughter and others' laughter.
Mm-hmm. And then like
Um,
one of my kids will be laughing about something. The other kid will just hear the laughing and he'll join in laughing even though he doesn't know what was funny. And then we'll be looking at them two laughing and then we'll start laughing and we're all just wetting ourselves laughing, crying tears of laughter. And we don't even know what he was laughing about in the first place. It was just funny.
exactly. And he might not even know. Right. So, and that's exactly why we want to bring this in, why we want to make this. And children are beautiful examples. I love when people show up to a laughter yoga with a young child because it's just so easy for them. When we look at like that laughter stimulates the release of endorphins, like the body's feel good hormones, right? It's like a natural painkiller.
Yeah.
It's a natural painkiller. It's naturally happening. So children, they don't have all this heaviness, so they don't have to deal with all that. It's just really natural for them. So when we are with them and they just bring this natural joy that we talked about. And then we allow it to like naturally increase our endorphins, these feel good hormones, or what we call happy chemistry or happy hormones. We automatically start feeling that instantly.
Yeah. Yep. Ugh.
And of course, there's all these layers, if someone is in grief or someone is in loss or someone is in a deep depression, I know it's not that easy. Once when I was working with a client in a deep depression and I was doing sessions in his home with him. And the mother was interested in my work mainly because of the laughter yoga. And when I first started coming, I could see that this client wasn't there yet. And she kept putting all this pressure on me to do laughter with him. She said, it will change everything. It will change everything. It will change everything, And it was very challenging for me because on the one hand, I agree, laughter can change everything. And on the other hand, we have to be realistic. And say, okay, this person is in a deep depression. And first we have to work through some other things. So I want to be really clear. And it's important because I'm not someone who's coming like from this sort of just laugh it off. No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There are times where laughter is not appropriate or the person's not ready for laughter. And also, they can get there. I believe in that because it is a natural state.
It's like to get it back. We all have it there. We all had it there. Just shit got piled on top of it. And it's
Exactly.
like to be able to access it again. Sometimes you have to kind of unpack the shit a bit to get there, but we all have it. We all have the ability to access it again. Yeah.
Yeah. And you said the word permission. And almost anytime I write a description of like a laughter workshop, I almost always use the word permission because it's literally that. It's that we want to give ourselves the permission to laugh unconditionally, like when we did when we were children. So someone who's in a deep depression might not be able to give themselves that permission yet. And that's okay. We want to receive people as they are and not to force them to be something they're not.
Yet.
Right, yet. And of course, when we meet someone where they are and not where they're not, and if we meet someone where they realistically can be rather than where we think they should be, we will go a lot further. And then we can reach to that layer of laughter. It's important to understand when we look at it because and especially
I love that you brought that up. I think it's really, really important. It is a really important piece that the permission slip is granted, but sometimes we're not ready to give ourselves the permission to go there. And that is also valid. There's a reason for that. That is someone in survival in their, wherever they are. Right. And I think it's really, really important that you brought that up. So thank you. Tarla, thank you. This is amazing. Absolutely amazing. And I really liked the tip and the exercise that we could do. That was amazing. Amazing. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your time. Thank you for your time. Thank you to everyone listening in. I hope you find our discussion insightful, informative, and inspiring. Remember, laughter is incredibly transformative. And if you are ready to give yourself the permission slip, then try it. Try it. I can see that I really do. I'm going to start practicing it because I want that freedom, that liberation, that self-expression. And I think, again, we're looking to help people find what works for them. So give it a go. If it's not for you, that's fine, right? But worth a shot. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love it if you would subscribe, rate, and review it on your favorite podcast platform. It will really help get this information out there. Who knows, maybe it will transform someone's life. So I'd also love to hear from you, and I'm sure Tyler as well. What was your biggest takeaway from today? I really, really like to hear from people, like what really kind of stood out to them and was something new that maybe they didn't know about before. Stay curious, stay informed, and stay tuned for more episodes. Tyler, thank you. Lots of love.
Thank you. Stay laughing.